Hello and welcome to this free training session on phishing, smishing, phishing and farming. My name is Paul Rogers and I'm a cybersecurity trainer and CEO of DPO Solutions, which is a cybersecurity training company. So before we start, I really appreciate your participation, and if I could ask you to subscribe to this channel, and then if you find it useful, be sure to like and share and even add it to a playlist so you can always come back to it later. So with that said, let's get started and move on to the introduction. So this video is part 2 of the cybersecurity awareness training series and is a follow-up to our phishing awareness training video, which are both found on our DPO Solutions channel at dposolutions.privacy. So this training course focuses on practical examples of phishing, smishing, vishing and farming, with a look at some real-world attacks which have happened over the last few years. Attacks like these have led to over 246 million ransomware attacks last year, causing an average of $9.6 million in damages in the US when data breaches become successful. So we hope this training will increase vigilance and awareness with specific steps to take when reviewing suspect emails, text messages and voicemails on your devices. And don't forget, there are additional resource download links and information in the video's description which can help you with your training journey. So I like to use my own methodology for scanning phishing communications, and I call it SCAN, which I developed and includes 4 steps. These 4 steps are screen, check, attachments and note, and are used to generate an overall risk score or phishing threat level. So let's take a look at each of these on the next slide to show you what this involves. So the first step in the SCAN methodology is screening communications, which is really a quick evaluation of the probability that this email, text message or voicemail is a normal communication. In other words, you're asking yourself whether on the balance of probability that I would receive a message like this from this person or business, and whether it's unusual in any way. If it is unusual, it's time to raise the threat level in your mind from low to moderate and start raising your vigilance level straight away. So next is the check phase, which involves looking at the email heading for odd or inconsistent elements. This, as we'll see shortly in our examples, could be things like unusual email addresses, undisclosed recipients in the to or CC field, misspelling in the subject line, and even a message timestamp which indicates that the message could have been sent in the early hours of the morning, perhaps indicating a country in a different time zone. Any of these things would be a cause to raise the SCAN threat level to high from moderate on the slide before. Next we look for attachments and links. Attachments from untrusted sources and links which lead to untrustworthy sites pose a very high risk, raising the score to very high here on our chart. The obvious advice here is never to open unexpected attachments, and if there are links in the email, to hover over them instead of clicking on them. If the link is suspicious at all, then the risk gets put up to severe, as the site is probably a source of malware or a location where your personal data will be compromised. So watch out in particular for this step. So in the last step of our SCAN methodology, we look at taking note of pressure words like urgent, act now, missed delivery, penalty, cancel, suspended, refund, or time-limited offer, which are really baiting victims into some kind of action like clicking on a link. In combination with the previous steps, this would bring the risk level to a severe threat and would almost certainly be a phishing email. With this methodology in mind, we can take a look at some common examples of phishing emails over the next few slides and see how we might fare out applying our SCAN methodology. So first on our list is an Amazon Prime scam. This email is a severe risk from Amazon Prime, as all the criteria for our SCAN methodology have been triggered. So how is this so? Well, firstly, this would not be a run-of-the-mill email, as you may never or rarely have received one like it before. Then, when we check the address header, we see an odd email address in the form field. Next, when we hover over the yellow button, Update Payment Information, we see a suspect link which doesn't match with an Amazon site And then, of course, lastly, there are pressure words in the body of the email. So in this case, if you don't update your card in the next 24 hours, a bad thing will happen, which in this case is losing access to your account permanently. Again, similar to the last email, we see problems with the address field in the form of undisclosed recipients and a lookalike Bank of America email domain in the from field, which doesn't resolve to a real website when you search for it in Google. There's also a fake link and pressure words like unusual activity, which are designed to get a reader to react. Again, the risk here would be severe that if you did actually visit the fake site, you would likely be downloading malware or giving over personal information to be later sold and used in identity theft, credit card fraud, or password stealing. So CEO fraud. So this is a type of phishing attempt where an email comes from what looks to be the CEO or some other company executive urgently instructing employees to transfer funds or share sensitive information. They often emphasizing confidentiality or time sensitivity to prevent verification. This creates a sense of pressure and authority, making employees less likely to question the request. This is also a severe risk email, as it's highly unlikely that a CEO would be emailing you directly with a request like this, and an attachment involved and the words urgent also enclosed in the email. This type of email would need a secondary form of confirmation in some way if there's a chance that you believe it's authentic, i.e. a phone call or other in-house approval process which requires a formal sign-off and not just responding to an email. So now we'll briefly cover a few other types of scams like the Dropbox and Microsoft Security Alert, package delivery, and a few others. So let's jump in there. So here in the Dropbox scam, you'll see that a phishing email comes in, appears to be from Dropbox, notifying users that a file is being shared with them. Message includes a link to view the file, but clicking on it leads to a fake Dropbox login page. So if users enter the credentials here on this page, scammers will capture their login information and perhaps log in later to search for personal information, exposing your personal data. So here we have a Microsoft Security Alert. So this phishing type, an email appears to pretend to be from a well-known brand, which in this case is Microsoft, and is asking you to keep your account secure, that there's a possible compromise involved. But of course, remember that over 90% of these types of emails are fake, particularly in cases where the email is unsolicited. So in other words, Microsoft will only send out this kind of email when you request a reset, and will ask you to direct you to use an authenticator app rather than visiting a site to reset your password. You'll likely find that you have to look a little harder in these types of emails to detect the fraud, as there are some real email addresses used in the header, but hovering over the recover account button in this case will likely reveal a link to a scam website. It won't be a Microsoft website, in other words. Next we have the fake delivery email. Appears to be from a brand such as UPS or DHL, one of the others, asking you urgently to verify your account. This is similar to the Microsoft Keep Your Account Secure. The link provided usually leads to a fake login page, again designed to capture your login details. Again, the rating here would be high, very high rather, and that the fake page would likely capture your personal details, which would be used later to compromise your personal data. So this is another version of what we shown before, a PayPal scam. In this case, it's warning of suspicious activity and that your account may be frozen. Obviously, if you click on the link, the same thing will happen in the previous occasions. You'll be led to a malware site or a site that will steal your personal information. In this page, we have a look at a fake refund site. There's an equal quantity of sites that punish you in one hand and that other sites that offer a refund, in this case coming from the IRS. The link here involved will lead you to a fake website asking you to fill out some very sensitive information, including your social security number, date of birth, address, etc., which of course would likely end up on the dark web marketplace. You find yourself into the category of identity theft once again. And now here in our last example, we have a Google Docs scam. So using this type of phishing email, attackers will send an email claiming to be from Google, which is asking you to click allow to share information with Google. This link redirects you to a fake Google login page where if you enter your credentials, scammers steal your login details and access your files. This is similar to the Dropbox login and some other personal storage sites. Of course, once they're in on your personal files, they can find a lot more information such as scanned documents, personal identity documents, and etc. You do have to be very careful in these things, particularly if it's unsolicited. Now we move into our smishing section, where we'll cover 3 common examples of smishing and explain briefly what it is and how it works. So let's move on to the next slide. Smishing, as you may know, refers to phishing, but using text messages over mobile networks. Smishing attacks are generally less sophisticated than email attacks, as text messages are more limited in content, but they are similar in their ability to embed links and attachments in them, which can lead to identity theft, credit card fraud, and of course other bad things. Network carriers such as Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T do try to filter out these messages on their networks, but new types of attacks do get through. Hence, they recommend that receivers forward unwanted text to the short code 7726, which is short for spam, to try and shut them down quickly. Some smishing messages are quite convincing. This fake FedEx message includes fake scans of an envelope and a message to reschedule a missed delivery. Many victims will be duped into clicking this link out of curiosity and not thinking about telltale signs of deception, such as spelling mistakes, as you'll notice here in the URL where reschedule is misspelled. Readers of this text may also overlook the fact that there's no tracking number and the images are deliberately out of focus. This is of course to be taken in context that you were likely not expecting a package in the first place, which should be an immediate red flag. So what should you do if your suspicions are aroused? Well, you should look up FedEx customer service number on the internet and verify the delivery directly, but never through clicking on a link in the text itself. Here's an example of another smishing attempt, this time from Chase Bank. It's important to note that banks will never invite you to click on a link in a text message, as they realize how inherently dangerous text messages are. It's always better to contact your bank via customer service number on the back of your debit or credit card on the internet if you're ever in doubt about these type of communications. Banking institutions will offer guidance on their own banking apps and online banking website portals, giving more detailed guidance about what to do, which you should pay attention to. Another recent phenomenon shown here is the rise of recruitment scam texts and emails which invite victims to apply for a fake job opportunity. The message sender will often interact with the victim to add credibility to the scam, but usually there will be some kind of a link in the text that leads people to a cloned website which collects a significant amount of personal detail, placing the victims at greater risk of identity theft. Another frequently reported scam is called the fake toll scam, which have been recorded all over the US. In this scam, attackers will use a fake lookalike link to a real toll authority, in this case EasyPass, along with an official sounding threat of penalties including legal action which could happen immediately if payment is not taken promptly or is not made promptly. The link in the text takes you to a page where you enter your bank or credit card info and your driver's license number along with other personal detail which can be used to steal your identity and credit card information. The FTC, Federal Trade Commission guidance here is similar to what I've said in previous slides, so don't click on any links or respond to unexpected texts. Scammers want you to react quickly to this kind of thing. The FTC also says to check to see if the text is legitimate by reaching out to the state's tolling agency using a phone number or website you know is real and not the info provided on the text. And then finally, to report and delete unwanted text messages. So use your phone's report junk option to report unwanted texts to your messaging app, or forward them to 7726, which is short code for spam. Once you've checked it out and reported it, then you can go ahead and delete the text. So in this last slide in our topic on smishing, we take a look at some statistics which I think are eye-opening. So our first statistic is that 76% of businesses were targeted by smishing texts in 2024. That's up from 20% from the previous year in 2023. And for those businesses who were unfortunate enough to fall victim to an actual breach, well, it cost them on average $9.5 million when they factored in downtime, recovery, fines and investigations. The road toll scams have surged a whopping 2,900% between 2023 and 2024, which should be also seen as an indicator of how successful that scam has become. While the last statistic shows us that Americans are inundated with spam despite the prevention efforts of carriers like AT&T, Verizon and T-Mobile. The carriers have tried to implement solutions as recommended in the previous slide by the FTC, such as forwarding spam text to 7726, and other solutions such as centralized spam registries, SMS network filters, which have worked to some extent but have not stopped ever more determined hackers who are now using artificial intelligence to quickly defeat controls. So in this section we're going to talk about another type of phishing attack which is known as pharming. So pharming is a type of attack which malicious code on your computer redirects users to fraudulent websites or manipulates their computer system to collect sensitive information. So you may ask, how does this type of attack happen? Well, it can be done through a number of ways, such as visiting an irreputable website like a free software download site, downloading an email attachment, or installing a browser plugin, and some other methods. Much of the time, the design of the attack is to redirect users to a website which looks like a legitimate one, such as a bank website, a social media site, or an online marketplace site, which we'll see covered in the next few slides. So here is an example of a fake bank site form. In this case it's HSBC. This has successfully deceived thousands of users in the past, and hackers in this case registered a domain which was similar to the bank's legitimate address and will make it difficult to detect as a fraudulent site without further checks. The form here collects a significant amount of sensitive personal and credit card data, which should almost certainly be used in fraudulent card activity and identity theft. Users need to be extra vigilant for unusual website addresses with showing several hyphens, misspelt words, or nonsensical words. They need also to be vigilant for the site not secure messages, which you see up here in the message bar. So as a matter of good practice, use the authorized website directly, the HSBC in this case website directly, and don't access it through an email link. So this is an example of a fake social media notice. In this case, users will see a link in their direct messages which takes them to a form just like this. The form title is designed to alarm unsuspecting victims with an alleged violation and a threat of potential account deletion. This is an example of an attack which can be headed off if you stop and think it through. So what do I mean by that? Well, ask yourself, why would the platform, in this case Meta, need to know information they already have on you, and why isn't there any detail on what the alleged violation was, and why is it appearing in direct messages as opposed to an official Meta notification? Hence, always question why any unexpected request for information is happening in the first place. You have to think, could it be a scam for collecting my information for identity theft, etc.? In this last example of a pharming email, we see comes from the Geek Squad, which is a repair and technical support chain in the US. The ruse here is that you have been automatically enrolled for another year in a subscription that you never enrolled in the first place. This of course is designed to make a reader make a hasty decision in anger to fill out the form and dispute the charge. At this point of course they will have your real card details ready for the taking if you fall for the trap. There are many variants of this type of farming scam where different organizations are used as a ruse. Common ones I've seen are Norton Antivirus, Netflix and Amazon Prime, which use a fake subscription or problem with the subscription approach. The last type of phishing we'll cover in this video is called Vishing, which is similar to phishing and smishing, but it involves calling victims and using social engineering to persuade victims to provide personal information, typically with the goal of accessing financial data. The attacker will often use a ruse like they are a bank rep at their bank, law enforcement official, internal revenue officer, or even pretending to be from the department at your workplace. They often request information at some point in the conversation such as PIN numbers, social security numbers, credit card security codes, passwords and other personal data. They may also ask to install software on your machine to diagnose some kind of a fake issue, which of course is highly likely to end up badly for the victim. They may use AI synthesized voices to mask their true identities and sometimes add in localized accents on the phone to add authenticity to the scam. In this graphic, we see a common vishing technique used by attackers and cybercriminal gangs. In step 1, a cybercriminal obtains contact details of thousands of bank customers from lists being sold on dark web marketplaces like Stix and Biden Cash, which are some of the largest sources for illegal personal data lists. The attacker will likely trim down the list to top targets based on customer age and socio-economic data to improve their chances of scoring big. In steps 2 and 3, the attacker calls a victim pretending to be a bank official and tries to convince them of the need to transfer money to address some kind of an urgent issue to avoid potential legal action or even account closure. In steps 4 and 5, if the attacker manages to persuade the victim that the threat is real, they will provide payment instructions and ask the victim to log into their bank account on the phone and make the transfer to remedy the situation. Many of these attacks can lead to thousands of dollars and even entire IRA and 401k accounts being drained. So their pressure tactics, fear, and attacker-prepared responses can intimidate unsuspecting victims into following attacker instructions in order to rectify some kind of a manufactured problem. So in this tech support phishing scam, attackers pose as tech support engineers who say that they've identified an issue on your PC that needs to be fixed. This is a common type of phishing scam and unfortunately is particularly targeted on older people who may be more vulnerable to fast-talking, alarmist predators like these. In most cases, the scam results in the victim's bank account being accessed and fraudulent funds transferred being made to an overseas account. They may often claim to be from Microsoft or an antivirus company like Norton to add some credibility to the ruse. We mentioned CEO scams earlier in terms of email. In this type of phishing scam, an AI synthetic voice mimics a CEO or other executive and is used on conference calls or on voicemail messages to try and dupe employees into taking an action such as donating money to a fake charity. With the rise of AI generative technologies, the abilities for hackers to mimic voices and images of anyone has reached new levels. Some companies have reported successful attacks where AI generated CEO voices have been used to ask questions and collect highly sensitive information such as company earning data and other client information on conference calls. In these IRS type tax scams, an IRS official or tax advisor calls to claim that there is an urgent tax matter that needs to be addressed or face some kind of a penalty. These type of scams are usually conducted around tax filing deadlines to add some credibility and increased pressures on victims. So in this last example of a phishing scam, a caller may call about a case about a bogus medical claim which may be due to be paid out to you. The intent, of course, is to try and get personal data out of you, such as social security numbers and bank information. So this is another type of scam designed to steal your personal information, which can be used to file false claims and even open fraudulent lines of credit later on. So as we draw to a close, I've added some more government and well-known vendor resource links, which may help you and your organization with the challenges of phishing. The link here is also available in the video description below for your convenience, along with the 10-question quiz to test your knowledge on phishing. Well, congratulations if you've made it here to the end of this training. I hope you found the content useful for you and your organization. If you did find it useful, I ask you to like and subscribe to the channel. I've also included my contact details if you'd like to discuss your cyber training needs. I'm currently running a 50% promotion offer the first training session for a limited time. Just use the promo code Phishing to get the discount when you book. So thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See you then.